thank you guys for tuning in to this video. You are about to watch myself, Justin, and my good friend Morgan take on William B. Kresge Memorial Disc Golf Course in Lazybrook Park. You guys may recognize this course from past videos that I have on this channel. This is my home course, so we play this course fairly often. For context, I want to let you guys know that this video, all of this round was filmed on March 26th of 2021. You may notice on YouTube that this is being posted around late January, early February of 2022 because, long story short, life happened and I did not get around to editing this full thing together. But I hope you guys really enjoy this video. This is going to be more of a laid-back practice round that we're not showing the scores. We're not doing anything like that. You guys can count on your own if you want to do that. But I'm just going to do the commentary to kind of keep the audio going throughout this thing. And if you have not been to this course yet, maybe you're watching this video in order to get a good look at this course. I think we have the footage that will help you do exactly that. So starting out on hole 1, you've got a 260-foot par 3 that plays straight ahead. And you've got a tree that you can see out there to the left that you could end up in jail in that tree. It's happened once or twice. I'm pretty sure we have footage of both of us putting out of there at some point, not in this round, but it's a very fun hole. Now, usually the play here for me is a fairway driver off to the right side there a little bit and let it come back in toward the basket. And for most right-handed players, that is going to be the case. You'll see both of us do that here. Now, if you forehand players or you lefties out there, it will work just as well going the other way, except you just run into a little bit more danger, especially depending on the time of year with all of the tall stuff over on that side. The left side plays down into a ditch a little bit, and it can get very hickory and brushy in there, and you can lose discs in there. I've done it plenty of times myself, even as a right-handed backhand thrower, so it's a completely normal thing to happen. So as you can see there, Morgan parked his shot as he does on these holes, and I am off with not so hot of a start with my putting game here, and I'm probably going to mention it about 16 more times before this entire video is over. But this was, I believe, if I pulled it up on UDisc the other day. We did keep this card in UDisc. We did keep our scores in UDisc for this round. And the wind was blowing, I want to say 20 miles an hour was the average, any which direction. And after a certain point, you'll start to see tree limbs falling around us and all types of stuff. So we both get done with hole 1 there, and that brings us to hole 2, of course. Hole 2 is a 246 par 3 that looks a little bit shorter than it actually is, but it's still a short hole. You go down into a little bit of a valley there, as you can see, and then it goes back up into the basket. I always mention that this is one of my favorite holes on this course, and maybe out of every course that I've played, I feel like this just looks like a disc golf hole, if that makes sense to any of you out there. I just love the feel of this, and this hole always makes me feel like I'm actually playing disc golf. The landscape looks pretty good, and this is a shot where I'm usually trying to just go straight at the basket, and sometimes that happens, like what you just saw right there, but I don't usually do. I know a lot of people like to play a nice huge sky hyzer on this hole, and that works pretty well for people that have some more power and don't want to overshoot the hole and that want to just kind of spike their disc into the ground right next to the basket and give themselves a nice easy birdie. So I'm going to play an upshot here with a little forehand, which that is honestly, at least at one point in time, was one of my strengths, was those little forehand upshots. Just like that shot was right there. So it's looking like we're going to both tap out here. Morgan's going to be going in for a par as well as I am, because his first shot got wrapped up in the branches up above the basket, which that's another thing that plays into that on hole 2, is the tree right above the basket can get in your way sometimes. Here on hole 3, you've got I missed what it said there on the card, and I can't read this when I'm doing the commentary, but I want to say 285-foot par 3. And this one, again, you're going straight at the basket. There's a little bit more trees guarding that right side, so it's harder to do a hyzer with any type of height. That shot that I threw right there is pretty much what I'm always trying to do on this hole. I'm aiming at that last tree right there next to the basket, and I'm usually picking out a disc that when I throw it is going to kind of follow the path back in towards the basket or give it me a skip like it did right there. Obviously, I could have used a little bit more distance, but I would say that's one of the better shots that you will see me have on this hole, frankly, being a non-professional disc golfer. So Morgan's going to give a good bid to that right there, and I'm going to give my bit at the basket right there too. And if I were any better of a putter, I would be a lot better of a disc golfer, which I guess is true for everybody. So there's that. And so both of us will tap out here again for par. As a matter of fact, I will shoot low, so I will tap out for bogey, and we will move on to hole number 4. So hole number 4, you've got a 300-foot straight-ahead par 3 with a bunch more trees surrounding just the hole, which actually makes this one really pretty. You've also, this is where the water really starts to come into play. Technically, the creek down in the back comes into play on hole 3 if you were to overshoot the basket, but here you've got the water off to the left. And the cool thing about playing at this park, too, is that you've got like a drop-off and then another drop-off that goes down onto the land. And like over the summer, you'll always have people at the park and they'll be down in the creek and playing in the water. But you'll just always have those people down there because you have a little bit of room before you get to the water, is my point. And then you can see my upshot right there. I managed to hit this tree on the right side that a lot of people run into all the time. And then I had to give a little upshot there. And then Morgan had a good bit at the basket. I think he had the right idea with the right line, but between the wind or maybe not the best choice of disc, he ends up down on the right side in the valley down there. Now, usually if I'm going to miss my line on this hole, I want to be down in that valley down there. That's probably the easiest place to come back from, or at least the least dangerous, because as I was talking about for basically the entirety of this hole, there's water down on the left. And if you're down there, even if you're not in the water, you're down there and you can't see the basket. And it's just, it's never a great time coming back from that. So I lost count on what we both did there. I want to say we both got our pars for that hole and got out. I might have gotten a bogey
Call of Duty
again.
style.
And then you're going to see us jumping over this log here. That tree was actually cut down pretty shortly before we filmed this, too, which added a nice little backstop, which changed the dynamic on this course for quite a while. So hole 5 is one of the longer par 3s on this course. It's kind of similar to hole 2. You're going down and then coming back up. The basket is up on top of the hill, all the way down there straight ahead from us. If you can see it, you might be able to, depending on the size of your screen. And usually, this is a hole where I will try something different just about every time. Sometimes I'll go backhand up on the top of the hill up there, so that way I'm at least at the same height as the pin and can throw an upshot from there. This is a hole that I'm personally usually just going for par on. I don't birdie this hole a lot. It has happened, but it doesn't happen a whole lot. You also have that dirt road there. Usually, if you're playing in this area, the rules that we'll use for this hole is that dirt path is not out of bounds, but any of the paved road is, which Morgan was very close to being out of bounds there. As a matter of fact, he probably was, depending on if you were playing tournament rules or not. We were not playing very strictly in this game, so you're going to see him take his shots from there, and we didn't count them against him or anything. Here I'm taking a forehand upshot that I feel I picked a very good line for, and it was on course to do good things until it hit that branch right there. But what are you going to do? That's why there are trees in disc golf, right? That's what makes disc golf fun, is that there's not always just a clear path to the basket. So Morgan here is going to be coming back down this hill. Now, this is a little bit of a death putt because, as you can see, our cameraman here is standing at the bottom of a hill, and this is exactly what makes this one a death putt, is because if you miss your shot, you have the potential for your disc to turn over and to just roll back down into what looks like a beach at the time that we filmed this episode too. Just a lot of sand slash dirt slash whatever that was washed up onto the shore shortly before we had actually played this round. So I'm going to be making my par putt here, and we're doing better on that putt than we were on some of the earlier putts in the round. So I do manage to get the par that I'm always looking for here on hole 5. And then Morgan's going to come over here, and he's just going to tap in for a bogey on that hole. So you're going to get to see me take the tee box for hole number 6. Hole number 6 is very similar to hole number 4. You're featuring a 300-foot, same distance, it's straight ahead, and it's also, now this one's covered by a lot more trees than hole number 4 is, and the water on the left is more dangerous. So it's like if you were playing a video game, hole 4 is like the medium difficulty of the hole, and hole 6 is like the hard difficulty of the hole. That's kind of how I think about it. So I usually go a little bit off to the right, and again, a lot of my shots are going to be like that too. I'm going off to the right with a more overstable disc and hoping that it comes back in. This was a pretty good shot for me on hole 6. I mean, I ended up down the middle of the fairway with decent distance, And then you're going to see Morgan here is going to take a very flat line. He's just going to get around that thick tree there. And it is just going to keep going. Luckily, he had that tree to stop the disc back behind the hole, meaning that he probably threw that, I guess, 320 feet and maybe upwards of 360 to 380 had that tree not been there. So I'm going to come up through this jail of trees, attempting to run it there, but, you know. And then Morgan's going to be coming back down from up there. And this is also a hole where, like, the wind was significantly worse than it was on some of the other ones. As we get into, like, the back 3 here, as we'll call it, or I guess this would be the back 4, the wind is really starting to pick up. It's starting to blow all around us. You'll even see us starting to stop here every once in a while and wait for the wind to die down, and it just never does. That's what I'm doing right here as I'm talking about it. You can just see my shirt blowing around, and it's just not a good time. So I'm waiting to see if the wind dies down. I'm hoping for the best, and we got it. We just snuck over the top there. So my guess is it was a tailwind, probably blowing in that direction, blowing my disc down. And then Morgan's going to go for it here. Now, Morgan watches some branches fly around for a second. He knows that it's a tailwind, so he's smarter than I am, and he's usually going to aim up high when he's got that tailwind, but it doesn't always work out. He's going to hit the band there, and then he's going to tap in for, I guess, another bogey. I'm doing the quick math in my head, okay. So let's move on to hole 7. Hole 7 still facing a lot of wind, and hole 7 features the pergola that I'm going to go right under in this case. Now, that's usually not exactly what I'm trying to do, and I can assure you it's not what I was trying to do in this round either. I'm usually trying to go a little bit Anheuser with a more understable disc out to the left of the pergola so that it gets to the left side of the pergola and then comes back in towards the basket, basically. Okay, and what Morgan was trying to do there, he just really wanted to try this, doing a massive sky hyzer up over this tree that's right in front of us. That's something that he would not do during tournament play or anything like that, but was just having a lot of fun trying different shots on this hole. One thing that I always mention about this hole when we film on it is that I have seen everything off of the tee pad work, whether you're left-handed, right-handed, forehand, backhand. You can throw a roller from either side. You can do just about anything. I've seen spike hyzers work. I've seen hammers work, or tomahawks work. Hammers. Is a hammer a thing? That's just a tomahawk in reverse, right? But I've seen everything work. I mean, I've seen people park the disc from all angles. I've had a couple of ace runs on this hole, mostly from the line that I said I usually try to use, and that's why I usually try to use it, is the backhand turnover on this hole. But both of us here are going to get our pars and our bogeys and whatever we were really playing for on this day. I know I have a tap-in par right there. I don't even know what that was for him, quite honestly. And that's Colin, for anybody that's wondering. Colin was a pro camera guy for us this day, getting a lot of these back camera shots. And we had Gerard out on the catch cam, as he's been in other videos before, too. And he's been mentioned helping out all over my YouTube channels and everything of that nature. So on hole 8, this is the longest par 3 that we have, and I forget what the distance is. And 375 feet. I think that's what it says on the graphic. I can't actually see these graphics while I'm doing the commentary, so I'm sorry that I seem dumb, but you can see it on the screen. And here what you're doing, you've got a couple of trees in the way. You've got an early one, I'm in between 2 trees right now, right? And that further one up has some branches that hang out that can definitely get in the way if you're using an overstable disc and trying to get out there. Another thing with this hole is that the left side is actually kind of brutal, and you're about to see that, well, with both of us in this case, because we both let our discs kind of crash into that left side of the tree line, and that's really hard to come out of because you've just got a long line of trees in your way and then that one tree that's sitting right in front of the basket guarding it. So this is an upshot that I'm usually pretty decent at because I throw it a lot because I cannot reach this basket with my power. And then we've got Morgan way out to the left here because not a great drive. And he's actually so far out to the left that it might have helped him a little bit because he wasn't really facing the tree line as much. He was kind of cutting back in across the tree line. Usually what you want to do off the tee here, if you're going to miss your shot again, this is one where you want to be way out to the right because then you at least have a whole bunch of open field to just make a good upshot and save your par. And Morgan did a good job on this hole of actually being off to the left in the dangerous zone and still coming back and saving his par right there. And I'm going to be the one getting a bogey on this hole. That's going to take us to the last hole, a lot of people's favorite, the only par 4 on this course, sitting at 525 feet. This is hole number 9. You've got a big open field out in front of you. You will see a lot of people, if they're newer to disc golf and or newer to the course, will end up also over in the left side. The disc will fade harder than they think it will. And this is another one where, honestly, you don't really want to be on the left side. I mean, you've got a building over there. I guess you would call that a shed. It's like a shed garage type of thing. And then you do have another shed up there. Morgan also, by the way, just launches that cloud breaker. I know that's one of his cloud breakers that he threw there. And just launches it. I can't even reach that shed personally. I might have once or twice on a really good day. But the play on this hole, off of the tee pad especially, is kind of just launching whatever you can out into the open. You either want to be to the right or right up the middle. And as you can see a little peek of the basket there. There's a better shot of the basket. It is a pretty protected green on this hole, so your upshot game needs to be strong if you're playing a tournament on this one, or if you're playing anything for real score. You want to have a good upshot game and give yourself a putt for the birdie. That could be a real differentiator between a lot of players, is how good their upshot game is on this hole. And some people take this route too. He kind of snuck around to the back of the green there on his second shot, and he's down in that tall stuff behind the basket that also really protects this hole really well. You'll find a lot of people down there. I have played this course a lot too, so when I'm mentioning all this stuff, you might not hear me talking this much about courses that we do that are not very common to us, but in a matter of 2 years, I've probably played this course hundreds of times. As you see me take a little bid at the basket right there, trying to finish this thing off on a high note. Didn't quite get it, but what are you going to do? Morgan's going to be coming up from the thick stuff here. This is always a fun putt to make. I think if I'm ever practicing and I want to practice giving myself some par saves or just getting a tricky putt out, this is one of the places that I would go on the course, and I would get down there and take some putts from a knee, take some putts kind of straddled like he is right there, and he just kind of bounces it off the top, and he's going to come back from there. We're both going to tap out right here to finish our round and get out of the wind. You might have noticed there, I didn't mention it when it actually happened, but on hole 8 when I was teeing off, there was this massive branch that just fell off of a tree because of how bad the wind was. And at this point, I was just looking to get out of the park a little bit. I think all of us were, because this was just such a windy day that we played. But it was a fun round nonetheless. I want to know down below, if you guys enjoyed this type of content, if you enjoyed the video, let me know. Make sure you're liking and subscribing to the channel and doing all that type of thing, because the amount of content that I decide to put out on this channel from here on out is going to depend a lot on the demand that I can see from the content. And I'll see you guys in the next one.